Hello and welcome. Today we've got Dan Lyons, and today we are going to be discussing how the deep state really want you fat. They want you obese, unhealthy, and they're trying everything they can to poison you from their processed foods and hack in to stopping your metabolism from working. This is how they get rich from big pharma. Their source of profit is medication. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Instagram channel at nicholas.veniamin, where you can follow all my daily news reels. Dan, thank you so much for joining me, sir. How are you and what have you been up to?
Nicholas, I've been doing really well. It's a pleasure to be back talking to you, talking to your audience again. Thanks for having me on. And what I've been up to is just helping people lose weight and, uncover the truth about why they can't lose weight and also expose the lies in the weight loss industry and also in the food industry too.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest focuses we need to have as a human race is one, to take responsibility from our government so that we are free, and we're not paying taxes. There's no wars and all the political side. And the other thing is to be a good, loving, spiritual person and to be absolutely healthy. And, you know, because that is very important for the mind, the soul, and everything. So I think that is very important. So why don't I let you do your presentation, please?
Yeah, so I want to talk about the food industry first. So I want to paint this picture for people. When you walk into a typical grocery store and you look at all the products on the store shelves, and you see all these different packages and companies, and you think, oh, I'm going to choose this bread instead of that bread because you have free will. You see all these different products. Little do you know that most of those products are owned by essentially 10 bigger food conglomerate corporations. So some of those are, I can give you some examples: Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Procter and Gamble, Kellogg's, Johnson and Johnson, and there's a few others. So there's essentially 10 large food corporations that own 90% of the food supply. So that's scary, right? But what's even scarier is if you do your research to find out who owns and controls those companies, it goes up to BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. So for anyone that doesn't know, those are large asset management firms. And you don't really hear about those in the news much. You just hear about these evil corporations that control everything. And, it's all about the division to pin everything against capitalism. But in reality, this goes up to BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. So when you go into the grocery store, you don't even realize it, but a lot of the products that you're choosing from are owned and controlled by large asset management firms. And then if you go even higher than that, it gets really dark really quick. You get the Bilderberg Group, which is above that, and the Committee of 300. And pretty soon, it gets really dark. So I really want to paint that picture for people. When you go to the grocery store, it's not what you think. It's not a decentralized thing you're walking into and you have free will. This is very centralized and it's very sinister. So I want to just kind of paint that picture for people.
Absolutely. No,
So,
no. The viewers are very aware of the layers of corruption there is, especially with processed food and in our grocery stores. It's like if it's in Walmart, it's bad for you. But it's so difficult to get natural foods, and they
mhm.
make it so difficult for farmers now, especially and the little farmers that we have available to us, they're destroying them with chemtrails.
Yep, exactly. So there's like you just said, there's a lot of chemicals in our food. But for anyone that knows me and has heard my speech before, you know that I'm sounding the alarm on high levels of linoleic acid in our food supply. And you don't really hear about that much. You hear about the GMOs, you hear about the chemtrails, you hear about a lot of stuff, but you don't hear about linoleic acid. And so this is a polyunsaturated fat. We're always told that polyunsaturated fats are healthy for us. They'll promote, health and weight loss and everything. But if you actually look into where those studies are coming from, it comes from Harvard, it comes from Tufts, and those are wrapped into the whole globalist monster too. So the whole medical industry is kind of geared towards saying what Tufts and Harvard recommend in the whole medical industry. But Polyunsaturated fats are found in nature. I'm going to run through this quickly. Polyunsaturated fats are found in nature. Linoleic acid is one of the polyunsaturated fats. It's not bad for you in small amounts the way that nature intended. It's almost like you need water to survive, right? You need to drink water, but if you have 100 gallons of water in one day, you're going to die, right? So you can kind of relate that to this linoleic acid. So there's 4 main reasons why high amounts of linoleic acid is so detrimental to our health. Number 1, and this is the one that I've been really focusing on and sounding the alarm on, right? So what happens is when you have this linoleic acid in this high amount, it combines with chemicals that your body makes called reactive oxygen species. Your body makes those naturally. It's a natural thing. Your body can clear them, but you have so much of this linoleic acid in your body that those 2 things combine, linoleic acid and these reactive oxygen species, they combine, they create what's called a lipid peroxidation reaction in your cells, and it destroys your body's mechanism of burning the food that you eat for energy. And it also destroys your body's ability to burn your own body fat. So that's called beta oxidation. We talked about that last time. So essentially, this lipid peroxidation reaction destroys your electron transport chain. So now you can't make energy from the food that you eat. And again, you can't run beta oxidation to break down your own body fat because beta oxidation relies on the electron transport chain. So now you have this situation where you're storing food more efficiently as body fat, and at the same time, you can't break down your own body fat. So that's the weight loss component of why this is bad. There's other reasons too. So when your electron transport chain is damaged, you can have DNA mutations, which lead to cancer. You can have cell death because all the organelles inside the cells are reliant on energy production through the electron transport chain. When you have cell death, you can have cognitive decline as you age and all sorts of other issues. The cell can become insulin resistant, which can lead to type 2 diabetes. So this is the number 1 reason that I've been sounding the alarm on high levels of linoleic acid. But there's other reasons too. So number 2 is that linoleic acid in this high amount is directly toxic. So when you consume this high amount of linoleic acid, it can rapidly degenerate into things like 4-hydroxynonenal, malondialdehyde, acrolein, carboxyethylpyrrole. So these are chemicals that you find in cigarette smoke, right? So I just want to nail that point home, right? You could never smoke a cigarette a day in your life, but you're still getting all the same toxins that you would if you were smoking cigarettes because you're consuming linoleic acid. You don't even know that you're consuming linoleic acid. That's how sneaky it is, right? So that's number 2. The third reason you should stay away from linoleic acid is it's pro-inflammatory. And, we need linoleic acid in small amounts in nature because if we have a cut, if we have a wound that needs to heal, we need small amounts of inflammation to basically, help heal that wound. But in this high amounts, we have system-wide inflammation throughout our whole body. Linoleic acid gives rise to pro-inflammatory eicosanoids, prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and thromboxanes. Those are collectively the biggest precursors and promoters of inflammation system-wide in your body. And inflammation, as we know, to that degree, promotes disease, promotes more weight gain, promotes just the opposite of what we're trying to go for with health, right? And then, so that was number 3. The 4th reason that you should stay away from high levels of linoleic acid is because you're driven to eat more. And I'll explain this. There's 2 reasons why you're driven to eat more. So number 1, linoleic acid by nature is nutrient deficient, right? Mm-hmm. So linoleic acid is a fat, right? Fats contain 9 calories per gram, right? So linoleic acid contains 9 calories per gram, but also healthier choices of fats like animal fats, fats from egg yolk, those also contain 9 calories per gram. But those sources contain vitamin K2, vitamin D3, vitamin A, a slew of minerals, and other really useful, healthful ingredients, right? So someone that's consuming a high amount of linoleic acid is consuming the calories, but they're not getting any nutrition. So intuitively, they're driven to eat more because their body is not getting nutrition, right? You're getting enough calories, but you're not getting enough nutrition. And then the second reason why you're driven to eat more is because linoleic acid gives rise to things like anandamide and 2-AG, which are endocannabinoids, the same thing you get out of smoking marijuana. So these things induce a lack of satiety. They make you want to eat more. You have no idea when to stop. So yeah, essentially there's four reasons that
Okay.
linoleic acid in this high amount is so toxic. But number one, like I said, is it destroys your metabolism. So you can't burn energy and you can't make energy from the food that you eat. So those
really,
are the four reasons.
so a lot of it isn't just getting fat, which still is a contribution, but the other part is the fact that we're eating poisons, which is stopping the body functioning properly, which is causing us to be inflamed, causing us to swell up because our body is not functioning the way it should be. It's like putting diesel in a petrol car. You're putting poison, you're putting something in it that it shouldn't be in there. Would you
Exactly.
say that this acid that you're talking about that ruins the body and gives you cravings, are you saying these are foods that increase your insulin levels?
They do. And at first glance, someone might dismiss that and say no, because linoleic acid is a fat. Fat alone can't increase insulin levels. It's usually carbohydrate through glycolysis, which is the metabolic pathway that carbohydrate runs that usually increases insulin. But when you have this lipid peroxidation inside your cells and it's destroying your electron transport chain, at the cellular level, you become insulin resistant. So we're not talking about at the receptor level like you get when you consume a lot of carbs, your receptors downregulate. We're talking about now your cells are sick. They're putting up their roadblocks. They don't want any more glucose. They don't want any more lipids. So the cell becomes insulin resistant at the cellular level. And then your body has to make more insulin. Your pancreas has to make more insulin to try to get glucose into your cell. But, your body is very smart, but very dumb at the same time. And, systems work together, to talk to each other. But in this situation where you're metabolically broken, your pancreas is just releasing more and more and more insulin, and your cells are damaged and can't accept the insulin. And some cells are fine and some are damaged. It's really just it's haphazard. Some cells are going to be making energy, some won't. So yes, it will increase insulin.
So let's talk examples of foods because what I like to do lately, so I could be more healthy, is they tell us not to eat red meat, but I actually have more steaks and a bit of cheese and avocado, olive, nuts, chicken, lots of eggs. I find that this is natural foods that we need. What are your thoughts about those types of foods keeping our insulin levels down and being able to grow muscle, and also natural food?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm glad you mentioned steaks and healthy foods like that, because steak as a broad category is healthy and unhealthy because it depends on what they feed the animal, right?
Mhm.
The animal is allowed to go out and eat what the animal usually eats, is supposed to eat in nature. If a cow is eating grass, that grass is converted into nutrition for the cow. And then, when that cow is slaughtered and you eat steaks and burgers from that cow that's grass fed, the amount of linoleic acid in grass fed product like that is very, very low, very low. But if the animal is fed grain is very, very high in linoleic acid. And what I didn't say before is linoleic acid accumulates in your cells because your body can't really metabolize linoleic acid in that high amount. So it just sits in your cells. And that's the same thing that happens to animals too. So if a cow is out in the field eating grass, there's no problem. If the cow is stuck in, CAFO raised cows are stuck there eating grain, their body is slowly accumulating linoleic acid. So that when you eat that steak, you're eating that linoleic acid too. So to answer your question, it's a twofold, right? So like steaks, eggs, things like that are very, very healthy for you. but it depends really on what the animal is eating, which is another thing that I'm sounding the alarm on is getting out of the food industry, because everything is fed grain. And you can eat a steak and get all this nutrition out of the steak if it was fed grass, because the cow eats the grass contains vitamin K1. So the cow can biohydrogenate and convert that K1 into K2. And then when we eat that beef, we're getting that K2. And vitamin K2 is extremely, extremely important for us metabolically and for clotting, and for our cardiovascular health. But we don't get that if we're eating grain fed, because the grain fed animal is not getting that nutrition from the field. They're not getting K1, for example, to convert into K2. So then we're not able to eat that nutrition from the field, because we're not able to go eat grass and get nutrition out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't convert K1 into K2 because we're not a ruminant animal like a cow is. But I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely. Thank you. And what do you think about the 80%, dark chocolate, cocoa? Well, what are your thoughts about that? They say it's very good for you. It works like an antioxidant. It's got good, healthy fats. What do you think about that? Would that keep your insulin levels low? Because at the end of the day, I always think, it's still chocolate.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I have not looked into it as much. So I don't want to give an answer without being absolutely sure and doing my research first. I hope that
No, of
you can
course.
respect that.
So, when you're speaking about the acids that increase our insulin and blocks, all these chemicals that we're not really supposed to have in our body, this is all like what we give to our children. I mean, we're brainwashed in giving them cornflakes and porridge and Weetabix, and probably I'm mentioning names here that only exist in the UK. But we're brainwashed into giving our children things like that. And they've got cartoons on the boxes to attract the children. And then, so it really, they should be having eggs and avocados and olives in the morning. And I've noticed keeping my insulin levels low. I haven't really craved potatoes, bread, sugar, and at the very most, if I have fruits and I'm really craving some kind of sugar, if I am, or a little bit at least, I will stick to the berries, because I heard the berries are very good for you. Well, and act as an antioxidant. What are your thoughts on the berries?
Well, first of all, I want to actually hone in on something that you just said regarding the sugar and regarding the insulin, because I want to complete the story, right? So when your electron transport chain is damaged from this high level of oxidation from the linoleic acid, you become dependent on carbohydrate. And the mechanism is that when your electron transport chain is not functioning to make 90% of the energy that your body needs, you have to rely on a different metabolic pathway called glycolysis. Glycolysis is essentially, like I said before, the metabolism of carbohydrate, into glucose for energy. And you mentioned cornflakes and all these sugar sources to keep insulin. Well, obviously that stuff raises insulin, but you were mentioning to keep insulin low. Well, how are you really supposed to avoid carbohydrate if you're so metabolically broken that you're dependent on carbohydrate, you're dependent on running glycolysis because your electron transport chain is broken? So I just want to drive that point home, that when you're metabolically broken, this is why you crave carbohydrate, is because your body needs energy. Your aerobic systems of making energy through the electron transport chain are not functioning. So this is why you become carbohydrate dependent. Now, to answer your question specifically about berries, I think berries should be eaten seasonally. I don't think that we need fructose year round. I don't think we need carbohydrate year round. I think carbohydrate is a great fuel source. There's a lot of health promoters out there that are saying stay away from carbs completely. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have glycolysis to begin with to be able to metabolize carbohydrate. I'm not a promoter of sugar, and I'm not a promoter of eating carbohydrate year round. But I think that berries are important. They should be eaten seasonally, the way that God intended. Usually when you eat sugar, your insulin spikes and you put weight on for the winter. That's what's supposed to happen. That's why berries are seasonal. And in the springtime, throughout the winter, you don't have berries. But one of the problems that we find today is that sugar is available all year round, right? It's not just fructose and fruit sugar. It's year round. We're just hammering our bodies with more and more and more sugar. And a lot of this is because we're dependent on sugar. But as you mentioned earlier, we're giving this sugar to our kids too. So we're not setting them up for success.
Absolutely.
And well, so do you mind if I talk about a population of people that was completely decimated by this linoleic acid? I want to give your audience
please. My audience
example.
needs to know, of course.
Yeah. So I have this data right in front of me. So the country of Tokelau, it's in the South Pacific, and they forever were known for being, the healthiest population. There was like no rates of obesity, no rates of insulin resistance, diabetes, no dental issues, no cognitive decline. And their diet was 90% saturated fat because their diet was mainly coconuts and fish, right? So all these people saying that saturated fats are going to kill us and they're so bad. This is a prime example. The country of Tokelau, they were actually the highest amount of consumed saturated fat in the world. And then, so before 1945, their rates of diabetes and overweight was actually 0%. And then in 1945, white flour was introduced into their population. So between the years of 1945 and 1969, obesity and diabetes in Tokelau went up to 2.15%. So that's in 24 years. The rates of obesity and diabetes went up 2.15%. It's not nothing, right? But it's a little increase, and that was only introducing white flour. But by 1970, vegetable oils were introduced into their population, and vegetable oils are high in linoleic acid. So that was in 1970. And then from 1970 until 2013, their diabetes was at 37.5%. So this is a 17-fold increase in 44 years of diabetes. And then by 2014, obesity was at 67%, and overweight was a total of 23%. So obesity and overweight combined was 90% by 2014. Now we're talking about a population of people that before 1945, their rate of obesity and overweight was 0. And now they're 90% by 2014. So by 2014, they were actually the most diabetic and overweight nation in the world. So this all comes from Ian Pryor's research. He's an epidemiologist. He's done a lot of research. Anyone can look at that research and verify this for themselves. But you could say that you could blame genetics. People try to blame genetics. Well, genetics don't change that quickly from 1945 to 2014. You can't have genetics change that quickly to go from the most fit and healthy nation in the world to the most obese nation in the world by 2014. And you can blame environmental factors. These people are living on pristine islands. They have clean water. They're out in the sun all day. They're working outdoors. And so this is just an example of how linoleic acid has absolutely decimated a population of people. And they were so healthy. And, I don't know where they are today, but, this data from 1945 to 2014 is extremely, extremely eye-opening.
Very very interesting. Well, thank you very much, Dan Lyons. It's been a great honor to have you. I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, and I want to tell the viewers that I created a course for Patriots. This is geared strictly for Patriots. It's an online nutrition course, and it teaches people how this linoleic acid has destroyed their metabolism. What can happen? It really gets into the science, but also I really worked hard on making it digestible for people. So, my goal was I want people to be able to take these lessons once and not have to take them over and over again. I want them to be able to understand the science, explain the science to their friends and family. And then I give people tools at the end that they can heal their metabolism. I'm not selling any supplements. This is purely an education for people. This is stuff that you can do with household products and just practices on your own to increase your health, to clear this amount of linoleic acid out of your body. Because remember, linoleic acid is stored in your cells. You need to get that out, right? Linoleic acid has a half-life of close to 2 years. So meaning it'll take you 2 years to clean out this linoleic acid from your body, but you can use tools, you can do things to dramatically speed up that process. So my course will give you these tools, right? The course is online, like I mentioned, it's self-paced. You can kind of think about it like you're taking a college course, right? If you enroll in a college course online, you can go in, you can study at your own pace, you can take the lessons. You can take the lessons as many times as you want, but like I said, I really kind of geared it to be digestible for people, so they might only have to watch it once to retain the information. And there's a final exam at the end that's optional. There's downloadable PDFs that people can take to the grocery store. You can look at it on your phone, or you can print it off, take it to the grocery store so you know what to stay away from, what to gravitate towards, what to stay away from. So there's all sorts of cheat sheets like that. There's also a sample workout for your entire body workout, because your audience knows this already, but I'll remind you, I'm a personal trainer. So there's a workout for you, and then I added something new. There's a 20-minute ab and core workout video that I made. It's me taking you through a workout. It's 20 minutes. So you really get a lot, and I priced it really affordable for Patriots, especially if you use the promo code. And for anyone that is questioning, there's going to be a link right below. It's going to be directly below this video, and it's also going to be in the comment section. Just make sure you type in that discount code NVTV, and you'll save. It's really affordable for Patriots, and that was my goal. I want to reach as many people as possible. I want to help people get their metabolism back on track, and just get healthy again. And again, it's not just about weight loss; it's about your overall health too. It's about preventing heart disease. It's about preventing cognitive decline. It's about preventing future issues with insulin resistance and possible type 2 diabetes. It's like your holy grail of preventing disease. So that's what I want to say to your audience. I just want to help people.
No, that's an excellent presentation. Thank you very much, Dan. The link will be below with the code. I will also comment it, because some people say I can't find it in the description. Rumble have made it a bit tricky. You got to look carefully to press the arrow down to see the description. But I will be pinning the link in the comments as well at the top. Please look out for it. Dan, thank you very much. And we'll speak again very soon. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nicholas.